My fiancée invited her ex as a special guest to our wedding without telling me, so I canceled everything and walked away. I'm Alex, 32, a graphic designer living in Seattle. My life had always been routine. Work projects, weekend hikes, Sunday dinners with my parents. I kept things simple, controlled. I had friends who joked that I was the safe bet, the kind of guy who planned ahead and never stepped into chaos. But chaos has a way of finding you when you least expect it. I met Claire at a friend's gallery show 4 years ago. She had this magnetic energy, a way of walking into a room and making it feel like an event. It wasn't long before we were inseparable. Claire, with her quick wit and ambition, made me feel like life was more than just deadlines and routine. I thought she was my ticket to something bigger, something more. I thought I knew her. The wedding planning started as a whirlwind, the kind of chaos I willingly stepped into because it was supposed to be for us. Or so I thought. From the start, Claire's mother, Martha, was deeply involved, her sharp eyes darting over every decision, from the venue to the shade of the flowers. Richard, Claire's father, was quieter but always present, a looming figure whose approval felt more like a verdict. I should have seen the signs, the way Claire shifted when her parents were around, the way their opinions carried more weight than mine. But it was a month before the wedding when I found the first crack. Claire had been acting off, restless, checking her phone like she was waiting for something. I brushed it off until I found the invitation in our study, the one marked special guest. The name made my chest tighten. Liam, Claire's ex, the one she'd once described as an old story. I waited until she came home that night, sat on the couch with the card in my hand. She breezed in, her smile faltering when she saw me. "Hey, what's with the serious face?" I held up the invitation. "Care to explain this?" Claire's eyes flicked to the card, and something dark passed over her expression before she forced a laugh. "Oh, that. I was going to tell you. Liam's just an old friend now, Alex. No big deal. No big deal," I repeated, feeling a tightness coil in my chest. "You invited your ex to our wedding and didn't think to mention it? And as a special guest, Claire?" She rolled her eyes, crossing her arms. "Are we really doing this? He's married. It's not like I'm inviting him to ruin anything. Then why keep it a secret?" My voice rose, despite the effort to stay calm. "What else are you not telling me?" The argument spiraled out of control, words hitting the walls of our apartment like grenades. Her defense shifted between accusing me of being jealous and claiming it was a gesture of maturity. But nothing added up. The seeds of doubt were planted, and I knew I couldn't just let them sit. The next day, Sophie, one of Claire's bridesmaids and a friend I'd grown to trust, called me. Her voice was hesitant. "Alex, I need to tell you something. It's about Claire and the wedding." "Go on," I said, bracing myself. "Claire's been talking to Liam's father. They're setting up some kind of business partnership, and the wedding, it's supposed to be a showcase. Liam being there seals the deal." The room spun as I took in her words. The wedding wasn't about us. It was a power move. "Why are you telling me this now?" I asked, my voice low. "Because it's wrong, Alex. You need to know what you're getting into." I hung up and spent the evening alone, the apartment cold and too quiet. The pieces fell into place. Claire's obsessive attention to the guest list, her parents' relentless push for a high-profile event, the way she lit up whenever Martha mentioned potential investors attending. It wasn't love, it was strategy. The next evening, I sat at the kitchen table, Claire's laptop open. I scrolled through emails, folders labeled with months, her meticulous planning on full display. And then there it was, emails titled Project Liam, with details on meetings, agreements, the timeline that led right up to our wedding date. Claire walked in and stopped dead when she saw me. "What are you doing?" Her voice was steady, but her eyes darted between me and the screen. "Is this why you're marrying me?" I asked, unable to keep the tremble from my voice. For some deal with Liam's father? She took a step back, crossing her arms. Don't act like you're a victim, Alex. This is how life works. You're either smart enough to seize opportunities, or you let them pass. Opportunities. The word felt sour on my tongue. Our wedding was supposed to be about us. You turned it into a business meeting. It's not just business. It's our future, Alex. Your future, too, if you'd stop being so limited. I didn't know whether to scream or laugh. Limited? This is beyond ambition, Claire. This is manipulation. We stared at each other, the silence thick and suffocating. She broke first, turning on her heel and slamming the door as she left. I sat there, the weight of her words pressing down on me like a tombstone. The next morning, I packed a bag and left. Mark, my best friend, didn't ask questions when I showed up at his door. Whatever you need, he said, clapping me on the back. I'm here. But it didn't take long for the storm to follow. Martha called that afternoon, her voice slicing through the air like a blade. Alex, I heard you left. This is ridiculous. You're going to ruin everything we've worked for. Martha, I was marrying your daughter, not signing up to be a pawn in your plans. You don't understand what this means for Claire, for our family, she snapped. You're being selfish. I barked a humorless laugh. You're the ones treating this wedding like a corporate merger. The call ended with her threat to recoup their losses. And by the next day, Richard was involved, calling me with the cold tone of a seasoned lawyer. Alex, I suggest we handle this amicably. If not, we'll pursue a breach of promise lawsuit. The absurdity of it stunned me into silence. Breach of promise? You can't be serious. Oh, I am. We've put substantial resources into this event. You'd be wise to reconsider your position. The legal jargon, the veiled threats, it was suffocating. But when Sophie called again, her voice shaky, I realized it wasn't just posturing. Martha's telling people you've been erratic, that you left Claire because of jealousy and paranoia. The betrayal ran deeper than I'd thought. They weren't just protecting Claire. They were smearing me to cover up their schemes. Mark, who'd overheard the call, shook his head. You need to hit back, man. They're trying to bury you. I reached out to Angela, an old college acquaintance who'd made a name for herself handling high-stakes family disputes. I laid out everything, the emails, the threats, the lies spreading like wildfire. Angela nodded, her expression hardening. We can fight this. You have more than enough evidence. The legal process wasn't swift or painless. Richard filed motions, dragging out every detail in an attempt to drain me financially and mentally. But Angela was relentless, countering every move with precision. Sophie's testimony turned the tide, her first-hand account of Claire's involvement with Liam's father shattering any illusion of innocence. When the hearing day arrived, I walked into the courtroom with Mark beside me. Claire sat across from me, her expression a mask of defiance. Martha's glare was ice-cold, while Richard wore the tight smile of someone who thinks they're about to win. Their lawyer painted me as unhinged, a man who couldn't handle his fiancée's success. But when Angela presented the emails, the conversations between Claire and Liam's father, the narrative crumbled. The courtroom buzzed as Angela leaned into her final argument, laying out the calculated deception that had driven me to walk away. Claire's mask cracked. She stammered through an attempt at explanation, but the damage was done. The judge dismissed their breach of promise claim and ruled in my favor, ordering Claire's family to cover the legal costs. The victory felt hollow, but necessary. The aftermath was quieter than I expected. Claire left Seattle soon after, moving somewhere far enough where whispers couldn't reach her. Her parents' influence waned. Martha's sharp tongue now met with wary glances instead of admiration. Richard's reputation took a hit, enough to make him tread more carefully. Liam was a ghost. I saw him once from a distance at a design conference. He nodded, a fleeting acknowledgement of what we'd both lost to Claire's schemes, before disappearing into the crowd. Mark and I went back to our routines, weekend hikes, impromptu road trips, reminders that life was still there waiting. Sophie stayed close, a reminder that trust wasn't a lost cause. We'd share coffee and laugh at stories from the past, building new memories that weren't tethered to betrayal. Months passed, and one day, as I stood by the waterfront, the Seattle skyline painted gold by the setting sun, I felt something shift. The bitterness that had knotted in my chest for so long loosened, replaced by something softer, almost unrecognizable. It was peace, not the kind that meant everything was fixed, but the kind that came with acceptance. The betrayal had changed me, and I'd be lying if I said I was the same person I was before. I'd learned that love couldn't be taken at face value, that ambition without integrity could hollow out the people who chased it. But I also realized that my worth wasn't defined by someone else's plans or failures. I was more than what I'd endured. Claire had been a part of my story, but she wasn't going to define it. The lies, the schemes, the shattered trust. They were chapters I'd read to the end and closed. There would always be moments that tugged at the edges of memory. The way she laughed when we watched bad movies, how she'd hum when she thought no one could hear. But those were echoes of a person who didn't exist anymore, or maybe never really did. One day, I received a handwritten letter in the mail. The postmark was from a small town in Oregon. It was from Claire. I debated whether to read it, my fingers hesitating on the folded paper. In the end, curiosity won. Alex, I don't know if you'll read this, or if you even care to. I just need to say it out loud, even if it's only in ink. I'm sorry. Not just for the wedding, but for all of it. The lies, the manipulation. I don't expect forgiveness, and I wouldn't blame you if this letter goes straight in the trash. But I need you to know that somewhere along the line, I lost sight of what mattered. And you deserved better. Claire, I sat with the letter for a while, turning the words over in my mind. It didn't fix anything, but it didn't hurt as much as I thought it would. I folded it back up and tucked it in a drawer. Maybe one day I'd throw it away, but not today. Life went on. Work picked up with a big project that took me to new cities, places I'd never been, but now explored with an open mind and no strings attached. The world felt bigger and more uncertain, but in the best way possible. Sophie and I stayed close. She'd introduce me to friends, some of whom became new faces at our weekly trivia nights. Mark, ever the rock, planned a hiking trip to Alaska, a celebration of freedom, as he put it. The air was crisp, the mountains unforgiving, and for the first time in a long while, I felt small in a way that made me grateful. One evening, back in Seattle, I found myself on the rooftop of my apartment building. The lights from the city flickered like stars, and the distant sound of cars hummed below. The scars were there, stitched into the fabric of who I'd become, but they didn't ache as they once did. I realized that surviving betrayal wasn't just about moving past the hurt. It was about reclaiming what I wanted my life to be. I wasn't the safe bet anymore, nor was I the man defined by someone else's ambition. I was just Alex, figuring it out one day at a time. And for the first time in a long while, that felt like enough.